So Max and I don't really understand 1911 style 9mm pistols. What exactly is the point? Well, today I have out here with me the Springfield Armory Prodigy, newly released. Let's take a look at this thing and see if maybe it'll change my mind. Welcome back to OG's Danger Show. All right, original gangsters, Officer Greg out here with you to give you a walk around of the Springfield Armory Prodigy 1911 DS, not a 2011. Springfield's careful not to use the 2011 moniker because 2011 has been trademarked by Staccato, who makes a very similar pistol. We'll take a look at that one here in just a second. But I wanted to show you this Springfield Prodigy that Springfield did not send me. I evidently am the only person on YouTube that did not receive a Springfield Prodigy in the mail. This one was bought with cold hard cash in your face. And whether or not I keep this pistol is kind of up in the air right now, but I wanted to walk you around some of its features really quick, compare very quickly against the Staccato. We're not going to do a side-by-side shoot-off for that. I actually recommend you go over here to Sergeant 1911. There he is. Sergeant 1911 does a really good side-by-side comparison, and then there's actually a few of them on YouTube where they shoot this against the Staccato. The Staccato has kind of been the go-to, the standard for double-stack 1911 pistols. Now, it's a high-end gun. It's very well made, but it's also pretty high-priced. Springfield kind of knocked this out of the park when they came out with the Prodigy 1911 DS. DS stands for double-stack, by the way. And it says right there on the slide, DS. So the double stack 1911 is nothing new. People have been using it mostly for competition for quite some time. Springfield, however, when Rob Latham was interviewed about the release of this pistol, he actually mentioned that this was not designed to be a competition pistol. Now, this could be adapted to competition very, very quickly and would actually do you very well in competition. But this was actually designed to be more of a duty and even a carry pistol. For me, probably not going to be a carry pistol for me. Don't happen to be a 1911 fan for carry guns. And if I do carry a 1911, I like it to be in 45 or 10 millimeter. These double stack 9mm have been around for a long time here. The Springfield Prodigy comes with a 17-round magazine and also a 20-round magazine. The 17-round magazine and the 20-round magazine obviously make it perfect for competition. Less reloading means you can run longer in the shooting games. The magazines are made by Duramag. They're actually very well done. They're sort of a black matte finish. They're very well built. They're marked right here with witness holes that show 20 rounds with a little extended base plate and 17 rounds here with a flush base plate. They're marked at the front with a 9/38, and we can only assume that Springfield expects this in the future to probably be a 38 Super magazine as well. This pistol's probably going to expand out to the 38 Super because they've got their magazines marked right there as 9/38, like some companies do 40/357 SIG. Marked right there with Duramag, made in the USA, and Springfield Armory's cool little logo stamped at the bottom. So actually kind of impressed with these magazines. They're very good. The magazines themselves have functioned 100% this entire time. It should be noted at this point that the Springfield Prodigy will also run Staccato magazines just fine. Now, if you have a Staccato, first of all, why are you buying a Springfield Prodigy DS? But the Staccato magazines are going to be more expensive every single time. Springfield estimates these magazines here, these Duramag magazines that come with their pistol, to be in the neighborhood of $60 a piece when you need to buy some more of them for your little race belt. Staccato magazines are quite a bit more. I think the last time I even saw they were about $70 a piece. Very well made magazines. We'll take a look at one here in a second. But just know that this pistol will run, and we did run some out at the range, Staccato magazines in this pistol, and it functioned flawlessly with them. So that was kind of cool. So after I run this test, we're kind of going to decide whether or not I have any use for this pistol in my rotation. Pretty much when it comes to high capacity 9mm, I'm going to be a Glock and a Smith & Wesson guy. I like the reliability. I like polymer striker fired guns. Now the Prodigy is going to come shipped in this nice little zippered nylon pouch that you'll probably never use again. It's a rather flimsy little pouch. It will keep your nice shiny gun separate from all your other guns and gear in your range bag. But other than that, I'm not really sure exactly what a little pouch does for your shooting. Inside the cardboard box, and don't get all bent out of shape about a cardboard box, you guys. I have a garage full of plastic boxes from all kinds of, well, every manufacturer of pistol under the sun. I don't understand why people are bent out of shape when they get a cardboard box. Doesn't really matter what you pay for the gun. I don't need any more plastic boxes in my garage. I need one good carrying case that has a lock on it for TSA rules for traveling with a firearm. But other than that, if they can keep the price of my pistol down a little lower, and Springfield did that with this pistol, by shipping it in a cardboard box, holy shit, let's ship it in a cardboard box, all right? So the Springfield Prodigy, as you can tell from the top of the slide here, is cut for a red dot optic. That's pretty much standard on just about every gun coming out of any factory these days. You can already tell right here on this pistol that the gun comes stock with the suppressor height sights. It comes with a black serrated rear sight. There are no dots or glowing orbs or anything on the back of this sight. And it comes with a green fiber optic front sight. It's a very visible front sight. The rear notch is kind of a U notch here in this sight. I can take that or leave it. I don't really care a whole lot. It's rather fast to pick up. I do like blacked out rear sights. They tend to draw your eye to the front sight only, which is where your eye should be. And so I do like the blacked out sight. I don't really know whether or not the U-notch helps me shoot any faster, shoot any better, but I didn't have any problem with it, so I'm not going to sit here and complain about something just to have something to say. The rear sight that comes mounted to this plate would come off with the plate, but here's the cool thing. The little metal, all metal mounting plate that they include in here was made by Agency Arms. Agency Arms makes some really good quality shit. This metal plate that comes ready for the Springfield Prodigy already has suppressor height rear sight mounted on it. So the minute you take off this cover plate, put it in the box, you've got an Agency Arms plate ready to go in there. So that's some good after. This wind is getting crazy. We've had 115 degrees like for the last 6 months here in California. I come out here to shoot a video and we start getting overcast skies and Kansas style wind out here. This thing locks down in here with no forward or aft movement. That's the way you want your mounting plate. That way when this slide is reciprocating under recoil back and forth, the optic that's mounted on here doesn't do any shifting forward, or there's no potential for it to shift forward and end up working itself loose or breaking off any lugs. So I'm not going to take this apart. I actually don't have the little Torx wrench required to take it apart, but you can tell right there, there's a little dovetail, and the dovetail snaps in there, nice, firm, tight fit, and does not allow this plate to move anywhere forward or aft. So it's actually a really good design. The one drawback to this Agency Arms plate is designed only for Springfield's Hex brand Dragonfly red dot optic. If it allows the use of other optics, I don't know. What I do know is it doesn't allow me to use any of the Holosuns I have sitting around my office. I'd have to go find something else. So although the inclusion of the plate is kind of a cool idea, it doesn't really help me for this pistol. And for this test, of course, I ran it just with open sights as it came out of the box. They also include in this package the Allen wrench required to take the pistol apart. It's a 3-piece guide rod that comes apart rather easily. I sat down and cleaned this gun after my extensive range day, and it was actually rather easy to remove this. This hex wrench is easily inserted in here, and that 3-piece guide rod is easily taken apart, and the whole top of the pistol comes apart for cleaning. It's not all that easy, nor would you really want to get into cleaning it out in the field. I had a couple of stoppages using this pistol when I ran it out in the field. It was very, very, very dusty conditions that day. I was hot and sweaty out there. I got into the about the 400th rounds in that box, and this pistol started getting a little sluggish, and I started to have to drive the rear of that slide home. Like now I was only using 115 grain practice ammunition. It's not to say that better, hotter ammunition wouldn't work fine in this, but in my opinion, any gun, whether it's $300 or $2,600, should run all ammunition, all modern ammunition. So it would have been great to have a pistol that was a little easier to take apart out in the field. I didn't want to lose all the little springs and parts out there trying to disassemble this thing on the bed of my truck. So, you know, for what it's worth, it could be taken apart in the field and the whole thing stripped down and cleaned. It's just not as easy to disassemble and clean all those parts and oil everything up as, say, a Glock, Smith & Wesson, SIG, or any of those common pistols. So also do with that what you will. So let's do a very quick walk around of the Springfield Prodigy, and then I'm going to show you this gun against the Staccato. The first thing you notice out of the box is this nice big wraparound textured grip. It's like, I don't know, 80 grit, 100 grit sandpaper, like skateboard tape. It's been compared to the stippled grip on the Springfield Hellcat. It actually kind of sticks to your hand. It's not overly aggressive. I'll show you here in a second. The Staccato has some very aggressive stippling on it. This is a nice smooth stippling. It would very much stick in your hand when your hand's wet, dirty, bloody, whatever else. You might notice here on the magazine well that there's no real beveling in this magazine well. It didn't seem to be a problem out there. I was able to swap magazines in and out of this pistol very easily, but there doesn't appear to be any beveling. It's sort of a little bit of a rounding there in the back, and inserting a magazine was no problem by kind of rolling it in on the back like this. There was no problem. One of the good things about double stacked 1911 magazines for 9mm, magazine shaped already kind of like an arrow. It's a big fat magazine that necks down to very narrow lips. So this big fat magazine well here takes the pointed magazines very easily. You really don't need a lot of beveled magazine wells on it. However, you might notice here on the side of the grip, there appears to be these little plastic grooves. And whether those grooves are kind of designed just to give your hand a little index point, or whether Springfield has manufactured those grooves in there for an upcoming, some type of a slide-on, snap-on magazine well, beveled magazine well that you can put on aftermarket. We don't really know. I haven't heard anything about that. Otherwise, a very good wraparound grip. Checkered mainspring housing. I've heard some people complain that this mainspring housing, which is plastic by the way, that it should be stippled like the side of the grips. I personally don't have any problem with it being different. I kind of like the fact that it's different. All of my 1911s and all my guns have different front strap and back strap checkering anyway. So the grip safety has a very pronounced raised memory bump on it. That's pretty much standard in all 1911 pistols since about 80 years ago. The magazine release is a little stiff, at least at this juncture. Now, it doesn't take much at all to get that magazine release and punch those magazines out, but I will say that this is one of the stiffer magazine releases that I've ever felt on a 1911 or any polymer pistol. So I don't know if maybe that will end up wearing itself in the future. Let's move forward to the trigger. You got a skeletonized trigger there. Again, a lot of people online have complained about this skeletonized trigger, that it's plastic. Again, I don't get a lot of heartburn over this skeletonized plastic trigger. Springfield has obviously cut a couple of cost-cutting corners to make this pistol, to bring this pistol in at $14.99 MSRP. And probably one of the things they're doing is including a plastic trigger. I don't think this is going to have a negative effect on this pistol one bit. The trigger is serrated up front, so your finger sticks to it. It's got an over travel stop built into it, a very, very, very fine hex screw, adjustable over travel stop on it. I think the plastic trigger is going to make it for a very lightweight trigger. I don't see any drawback to that. Again, I shoot polymer guns all the time that have plastic triggers, so that is not something that gets me all fired up right there. Moving forward, you're going to see the single lug that's been milled into the front of this steel frame. This is a stainless steel frame on this gun with a polymer grip module added to it. So at first you might think that this whole lower is polymer. It is not. Vast majority of the gun is stainless steel. Obviously the slide is. Obviously that big giant barrel is. But the trigger guard and the grip around the pistol are very, very, very thick, sturdy polymer. The slide is milled with some very aggressive cocking serrations. There is absolutely no way that you can have any problem running that pistol, running the slide on that pistol, whether loaded or empty or anything. Do your chamber checks from underneath. Do your chamber checks from over the top. If you're one of those like me who likes to rack the slide on a pistol from over the top versus using the slide release, these things are definitely for you. Very easy to manipulate. Now, that brings us to the slide release. This is probably the major drawback I've found in this. This slide release, and this one is a release, folks. I've gone on a rant before about slide release versus slide stop. You can tell which one's which by where the serrations are on the pistol. If the serrations are underneath, it is designed only to be pushed up, like on Glock and Smith & Wesson. That is a slide stop. If the serrations are on top, like a HK or most 1911s, it is a slide release designed to be pushed down and release the slide. This is a slide release. However, it's very difficult for me to reach up there and hit that slide release. I got big hands even. I have to rotate this pistol completely out of the firing grip to get my thumb anywhere close to that slide release. It's been recessed in this cool little slot, almost like they're trying to hide it from, I don't know, Satan or somebody. But that makes it very difficult to activate with the primary thumb without rotating that pistol completely out of the firing grip. So this pistol takes almost all 1911 aftermarket parts, except for the trigger and trigger bar and all the trigger parts in there. Most 1911 parts will work in this pistol. So it might be something you look into to put a little bit larger, more pronounced slide release on there. I know what they're doing. They're trying to keep it out of the way of the shooter so that you're not ending up with an empty gun and your slides run forward because you were resting your thumb on there, like a lot of defensive pistols. But as far as a competition gun, this one would be very tough to release the slide. Again, I'm an over-the-top slide release guy anyway. Yes, it might be a little slower, but it works on every single pistol that you might find or come across. So you don't need to train yourself to find some little tiny button. If you happen to be using somebody else's gun, you can always reach over the top and run the slide to load your next round after a tactical or emergency reload. On the back here, you're going to see a nice big skeletonized hammer. It's very easily manipulated with your thumb. There's just no way you're going to miss that hammer. If for some reason you needed to thumb cock this gun, I don't really know why you would. 1911s were designed by God and John Moses Browning to be carried cocked and locked. And that brings us to the ambidextrous safeties. They're not oversized like on a tactical pistol, like on a big 45 designed for self-defense use, but I had no problems manipulating these safeties from either side. So running the slide back, you can't help but notice this gigantic stainless steel barrel. Holy crap, look at that. It's a big giant steel pipe. The barrel is very, very, very thick and robust. It's got the typical 1911 lug on it. I'll show you here the disassembly when I was cleaning the gun. You can also see here the 3-piece guide rod and spring, easily taken apart. I didn't have any problem disassembling this gun, and I didn't even look at any instructions or watch any videos. I actually did this in briefing on duty. I sat down and with the little Allen wrench, I took the thing apart and was able to clean this entire pistol right there. The stainless steel barrel has an 11-degree crown to the muzzle. That helps protect the rifling in there, and plus it just looks badass. When this thing is closed, having that stainless steel barrel in that black slide with no bushing up front, obviously, looks just really cool, especially that little bit of a crown in there, which helps protect your rifling, but more importantly, makes you look cool, makes chicks dig ya.
You're disgusting.
This self-defense style trigger breaks nice and clean. We measured it here on the Lyman trigger gauge with a trigger pull of a little over 3 pounds on most of our pulls, which matches up with what we're feeling here. Most 1911 triggers are coming in much lighter than that. The whole reason 1911s are so popular and so accurate is because they have crazy light, very crisp triggers. This is a heavier trigger pull than you're going to find on most 1911s. Now, That could also polish itself in and become easier and smoother over 1,000 rounds. We were only able to run about 300 or 400 rounds out of this pistol. Maybe it gets a little smoother in the future, but for now, a little over 3 pounds on most of our trigger pulls and nice clean break. And I still can't lock that damn slide open. The metal parts of this pistol have been covered in a black matte Cerakote. A very nice, impeccable job of Cerakoting. That's what you would expect from Springfield. Nothing but the best. Excellent mill work. There's no gouge marks underneath the slide like you find in some cheaper guns. The machining and the build on this is just absolutely top notch for the price. And did I mention the price on this thing again? $14.99. Springfield wants people to be able to get into the double stack 1911 game without dropping 2,500 bucks, 2,600 bucks like this Staccato. $14.99, you can get yourself into the double stack 1911 game, whether or not you're in competition or you're just looking for this type of gun for a duty gun or a nightstand gun. Boy, I am having a tough time getting that slide locked back just for even at demo purposes out here. Now, I'm not a guy who buys fancy stuff. I even think 2% milk is awfully pretentious. But this is a nice way to get into this double stack 1911 market without dropping $2,500 or 3,000 bucks on a gun. I personally don't understand the dropping 2,500 bucks, 3,000 bucks on these competition or double stack 1911 9mm pistols. I'm not into competition. I have really no desire to get into the competitions with these type of pistols. In fact, it's on my bucket list never to get involved in pistol competitions of this style. So I have with me today the famed Staccato. This is a Staccato P pistol. Excellent, excellent, well-made pistol. Personally, I don't see the spending of $2,600 on a pistol like this without the optic. The way the owner of this pistol had this thing spec'd, running about $2,600. Again, I'm not a competitor. I don't understand dropping $2,600 on a pistol like this for me, though. I'm a specific market. I don't want to have to go sell pictures of my feet online to Japanese businessmen just to afford a high-end pistol like this. But I'll tell you, there are some things I'd like to compare with the Prodigy. First of all, when you get your hands on the Staccato, you definitely feel that aggressive grip texture. Also, this magazine well, very much designed for competition, tends to drive your hand up into the pistol nice and deep, which on a 1911 style pistol, you kind of need your hand to be nice and deep up in that beaver tail to depress that safety. So I do kind of like the fact that it helps drive your hand up. Other than that, I really don't think you need the magazine well for speed with these type of pointy magazines. The Staccato has a smoother action, not a ton smoother, but overall the pistol is very, very lightweight. This is much lighter than the Springfield Prodigy. I haven't put them on a scale to figure out how light, but it's noticeable. The Staccato also has very aggressive serrations milled into the slide, just like the Prodigy. It also has a single lug rail milled underneath, just like the Prodigy. The Staccato is a bushingless full-length guide rod, just like the Prodigy. This barrel happens to be slightly tapered, whereas the Prodigy's barrel is a cylinder, one cylinder of bar stock all the way through. Same thickness all the way through. The Prodigy is a very slightly tapered barrel, and you can tell the owner of this pistol has not yet shot this. True story, I think. Moses came down from the mountain with the stone tablets that had the 10 Commandments engraved on them. He set those 10 Commandments down. He drank an orange Gatorade. Then he climbed back up the mountain and came back down with the 11th commandment. What was the 11th commandment, OG? The 11th commandment engraved in stone was, thou shalt not take the virginity of another man's high-end pistol. So we didn't shoot this Staccato out here today. I don't want to, the owner doesn't want to shoot it just yet, and I'm certainly not going to be the first guy to shoot it. But we ran the heck out of this Prodigy 1911 DS. Now the Springfield Prodigy is going to come from the factory with either a 4 1/4 inch barrel like this one here, more of a commander length pistol, or a 5-inch barrel, more of a government length pistol. And I personally like the looks of the 5-inch gun, and probably there's going to be a little bit smoother recoil on it because a little bit more weight outside. Either way, both pistols are going to retail for $14.99. If you like the Hex Dragonfly red dot sight, you can have that mounted on at the factory for an additional $200. So $16.99, you're going to get a gun that's ready for duty, self-defense, or competition straight from the factory. And for me, for someone like me, if I was going to dabble in competition sports, I'd rather dig into it with $14.99 than I would $2,600 for Staccato, even though this, boy, this is a smooth feeling gun. I really, really want to shoot it. So is the Springfield Prodigy a Staccato killer? It's probably going to dip into their sales a little bit. If you were wanting to get into that double stack 1911 market, you were kind of stuck with going towards the Staccato angle, and you were going to have to bite the bullet and pay the money. But the Prodigy is a great way to get into it. It obviously is going to feel a little bit different, but again, this is not a gun I would carry every single day or at all. So I wouldn't drop that kind of money on a pistol like this if it was just going to be a range clinker for me, possibly even a nightstand gun. I've got other guns that'll do that. So for me, if I'm going to dip into the double stack 1911 market, I'd rather jump in at $1,500 than at $2,600. So I don't really believe it's a Staccato killer, but it's probably going to take a couple of orders off of their books for the year. So when I first took this thing out to the range, one of the things I noticed was it's a very flat shooter, very comfortable shooting gun. That's because of all the weight up on top here that helps suck up some of that recoil. So it's very easy to get very fast strings of fire. I didn't find this gun to be all that accurate for me, at least straight out of the box. So shooting this gun, I was a little, let's say, inaccurate. I couldn't print the same kind of groups that I can with a Glock or a Smith & Wesson or a SIG. So these double stack 1911s and 9mm are kind of like the bathroom at the park in the middle of the night. They're new territory for me. It's going to take me a while to get used to this kind of thing, and I wasn't that great of a shot with it. I didn't like my groups. The sights might need to be drifted a little bit, but I found my rounds were a little bit left everywhere I shot from distance and up close. I couldn't get really nice tight groups with it. That's probably me. I'm sure it's not the gun. I really like the rounded top of this slide. There's a lot of 1911s out there with a squared off top of the slide and long serrations down there that are for glare reduction. This is a matte black finish. It's not going to really throw a lot of glare up in your eyes anyway, but I really like the rounded top of this slide. Even the Staccato has a mostly rounded slide with a little bit of a flat spot at the top. I like this. It kind of reminiscent of the old 1911s with a nice rounded barrel style slide. So. Hey, I want to take a second and thank CGG Firearms in Tulare, California for being a sponsor of OG's Danger Show since the very beginning. I've been buying my guns and ammunition from CGG Firearms down there in Tulare since long before I started a YouTube channel, and they have been a sponsor of the show and a proud supporter of the show ever since I started up. So swing by CGG Firearms in Tulare if you're ever anywhere in the Central California. It is worth a couple hours drive to get your guns and ammunition from Omar or Eddie down there at CGG Firearms. They have a huge stock, rifles, pistols, and shotguns hanging there on the wall for you to look through. More importantly, where else are you going to get one of the world's best tri-tip sandwiches right there at the exact same place where you buy your guns? I don't know. Take a look, CGG Firearms in Tulare, California, and I want to thank them for being a sponsor of OG's Danger Show since the very beginning. So the pistol was a very flat shooting gun, maybe not all that accurate for me, but I still had a great time testing it out. It ran all the different types of ammunition we had out there. I ran Staccato magazines, I ran the 20-round magazine, I ran the 17-round magazine. Towards the end, as we got into the 300s of rounds, and again, very, very dusty conditions out there that day, wind blowing, dust coming up, the pistol started to get a little sluggish. Now, I hadn't oiled the pistol at all. So it started, the slide, you could feel the slide slowing down a little bit on its recoil, and eventually the slide would fail to go completely into battery, what we call fail to feed. It would extract all the rounds, it would fail to get that last round all the way into battery, and it would stick out just, half an inch like this, and it would require a good karate chop to the back of the slide. That's something I've done with some really dirty Glocks, but on 1911s, I've never really had that problem. So it could be that it was just a new gun. It needs some time to wear itself in. You'll see from this video right here when I was cleaning the pistol that there are some definite wear marks where the black Cerakote has already started burnishing itself off. These are contact points that definitely need to be oiled, but also those contact points being a little tight not only allow for this pistol to be nice and accurate and have a really nice tight fit, but they could be causing the pistol to sort of slow down when there's a little dust introduced there or when it gets a little dry. Now, I didn't want to take the pistol apart out in the field to completely strip it down and clean it, but I did have some Slip 2000 and I liberally poured a bunch of oil down into the slide and on the rails. It kept the pistol running a little better. I have a feeling some of this oil might have attracted even some more dust. The thing ran for us mostly, but I did not have 100% reliability. Now, you can shit on the polymer striker fired guns like a Glock or Smith & Wesson all you want, but I can't recall ever taking one out of the box and running the first 300 or 400 rounds out of it and it needing a break-in period like most 1911s recommend. They tend to run reliably right out of the box, and I can't think of a time when I've ever taken them out, dirty, dry, anything like that, that they've choked up like this Prodigy did. So I don't know. For a self-defense pistol, I would definitely need to run this thing through a lot more rounds before I would feel comfortable betting my life on it, especially as a carry gun. If it was nice and clean and oiled and sitting on a nightstand, possibly so, but why when I've got other guns? So here's my final thoughts. I think it's a great gun. I think it's an excellent way to get into the double stack 1911 market. For me personally, and this is only for me personally, all the handguns I own serve a defensive purpose. Whether or not I'm carrying them that day or not, they all serve a concealment or a self-defense purpose, whether in the home, on my person, in the truck. I have very few safe queens, and I don't have any competition style guns like this. So I want to be honest with you guys up front. For me personally, this is probably not a gun I'm going to keep. I know somebody who already wants this thing from me if I'm not going to keep it. But in 9mm, if I want a high capacity 9mm that shoots 20 rounds, boy, there's some great SIGs out there. There's some extended magazines for Glocks and Smith & Wessons out there. 17 rounds out of a 9mm. Glock was doing that in 1986. So if I wanted a high capacity 9mm, I'd probably myself stick with a striker fired polymer gun. But if you're wanting to experiment with the 1911 double stack 9mm pistols for competition or just duty or self-defense, I think the Springfield Prodigy is probably a good way to go. It lets you experiment for about $1,500 instead of jumping into a $3,000 investment. Okay, so there's my review of the Springfield Prodigy. I thought it was a very cool gun. I have polished this thing up and cleaned every little nook and cranny because I'm going to take it back to the gentleman who wants to inherit this gun from me, and I think he'll get a lot more use out of it than I will. So I think it needs to go to a loving home and maybe not the OG's compound. But I thank you guys for stopping by and watching this video. You've probably seen other videos about this. I'm not always the first guy to get pistols out there. I have a full-time job. It takes me a while to get a video filmed and edited, but I appreciate you guys stopping by and watching it. If you'd like to help us out over on Patreon, the link is down here in the description, and I very much appreciate the support of our current Patreon donors. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up down here below the video. That helps the algorithm, helps push this video out there around YouTube and have it seen more. If you didn't like the video, who asked you? Keep it to yourself. If you're not already a subscriber to OG's Danger Show, it's going to take you like a nanosecond to reach down here and hit the subscribe button. So unless you've been living in a cardboard box behind a dumpster, you're probably aware that these are crazy times, and they're only getting crazier. So I encourage you to stay armed where you are legally allowed to do so. And until next video, OG out.